Hey babes, I'm back with another YouTube video, and today I wanted to show you guys how I like to make my white glow-in-the-dark acrylic powder. So here I have a bunch of pigment glow-in-the-dark powders that I got from Amazon, and I will link them down below. So I'm just going to show you guys how exactly I do everything. For my pigment powder, I was trying to find something that was closest to white, because of course you don't want to use any other color because it's not going to remain white. So I'm also using some white acrylic powder from Chisel. Normally I use 𝚊𝚙𝚙𝚕𝚒 3D white, but they did not have any at the nail supply store. So I'm also using some tablespoons so that I can properly show you guys what I'm doing. I started off with 2 tablespoons of my white acrylic powder. I wanted this to be a milk white color, so afterwards I did 2 teaspoons of my clear acrylic powder. Lastly, I ended up doing 1 teaspoon of the pigment powder, and I really did like 4 1/4 tablespoons, which would have been 1. But as you guys can see, it is kind of a yellowish color, so you don't want to use too much because you don't want to turn the acrylic powder yellow. But luckily it came out a really nice creamy milky white, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like and how bright it is when I put it under the lamp. The acrylic powder was smooth. I do prefer using 𝚊𝚙𝚙𝚕𝚒 3D white just because it does dry a little faster, but I still did like the consistency and how it played out. So like I said, I am going to show you guys how bright it gets at the end. As it's curing, I did decide to turn off the light so I could show you guys what it looks like when I take it out. So you can see how bright it is. Even the acrylic powder in the jar is super bright. So I'll be putting this on my feet today. I know my feet look a little crusty, a little ashy right now, but we're going to fix that. And we are going to use this acrylic powder. So I'm first going in with this ball cuticle bit to remove the dead skin from the cuticle area. And y'all, my toenails were a little thin. I did recently try to record a video doing my feet with an acrylic powder from another brand, but I really did not like the consistency, and it needed to be capped and clear. So that really didn't go too well for me. So I ended up removing it way sooner than I thought I was going to have to. And they just feel a little tender right now. My toenails had already grew out pretty long from my last set, so I really don't have to shape them too much since I already had square acrylic toes in them. They were square for the most part. This one, as you guys can see, the 4th one, I don't know where the rest of that one went, but we are going to create me a nice new square one right there. So I did move on, and I started to use my sanding band to remove all of the shine off of my toenails. And when I was doing this, y'all, I was being very gentle because like I said, I did recently soak some acrylic toes off that I really wasn't expecting to take off. Then I put gel polish on them because I had to go out, and I just think it was too much for the plates. Now that I am all finished and I dusted off all of the dust, I am going in with my alcohol, which will be my dehydrator. Then I'm going to do 1 coat of my Young Nails Protein Bond and 1 coat of my No Lift Primer. Y'all, the acrylic toes could last up to like 2-3 months. I mean, they're gonna grow out, of course, you'll need a fill-in, but they last for a really, really long time. Starting with my middle toe, I picked up a very small bead of my white acrylic powder, and after placing it in the center of the nail, I'm just going to use the tip of the brush to lightly push the rest of the acrylic back, and then I'll use the tip of my brush again to start to bring this acrylic down so that I can remove the rest of the acrylic. I'm doing this very lightly, doing very light strokes, just being careful so that I can completely cover the nail without having to clean up the cuticle area too much. So when you're doing this, I prefer to use drier beads because you don't want to have to go back and be constantly cleaning up the cuticle area when you're finished. Once the application is finished, I did use the bottom of my cuticle pusher to remove the rest of the acrylic, and then I once again went back in with my brush to do any reshaping. For this toe, I'll be doing the same thing. You guys seen that I placed the bead in the center of my toenail, and then I'm going to lightly spread it to the cuticle area and to the side walls. If I do by mistake spill acrylic into the cuticle area, I do like to clean that up before I go back to the base of the nail and make sure that everything is square. This way you don't have that acrylic in the cuticle area drying up while you're trying to focus on the rest of the nail. As you guys can see, for this toenail, it was very round. Any new growth I had broke off. So here I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to start to place it in the center of my toenail, and then very lightly, I'm just going to start to use the brush to form the square I'm looking for. So I'm just being very light as I'm doing this, just spreading it from sidewall to sidewall and in the cuticle area. And then I'm going to start to use the tip of my brush to bring the acrylic powder down so that I can remove the rest of it using the cuticle pusher. This way, I do not need to use tips on my toes. You don't want to be putting no tips on your client's toes, y'all, because if they hit that toenail, that whole toenail might remove itself. And we don't want any of that. We don't want the toenail breaking in half or any other trauma due to the nail tip. So I feel like an overlay will be the safest. A few seconds after I finish the toenail, I am using the bottom of the cuticle pusher to lightly remove some of the acrylic powder so you guys can see it left a nice square finish. And when you're doing this, you don't want to do this too soon, of course, because you don't want that acrylic powder to be wet as you're doing this. And if it's too dry, it may come out a little funny and you're going to have to do more filing. Lastly, for my big toenail, normally I like to do this in 2 beads. I do see a lot of people do it in 1, but I'd be a little nervous about doing that because I don't be wanting the acrylic to dry too quickly. So I like to do this in 2 beads. So my first bead, of course, is just making the bottom of the toenail square. Even if I didn't, have a full toenail here, this is what I'll be doing with the first bead. And then my second bead, of course, would be the cuticle bead. So for the cuticle area, I did feel like I could have filled it in a little more. So I did go back in with another bead on both sides because I did place the cuticle bead in the center, and I feel like, the acrylic part, it could have went a little more to the side. So that's just what I'm fixing here. Also, if you guys were wondering, I charge $50 for acrylic toes. I know some people charge anywhere between $40 and $100 for a basic set of acrylic toes. And I feel like more of the $100 prices come from the fact that they last for almost 3 months sometimes. So it really is up to you. At the time when I set my price at $50, I was really just starting, and I feel like I could still, perfect my craft. But when I'm ready, y'all, best believe I'm going to raise my prices. Alright, y'all, so this is the application, and now we're going to move on, and I'm starting with my sanding band. I'm going to start to seal the cuticle area using my fine grit sanding band, and I am doing this on a low speed. I'm also going to season the sanding band before I continue because, of course, you don't want to cut yourself or your client when you're doing this. And that sanding band, even if it doesn't feel like it, it is rough around the edges, and I know because I cut myself with it before. So I am using my fine grit sanding band, like I said, to continue to seal the cuticle area and go over the surface of these nails. And I'll be doing this to the rest of my toes. And y'all, I love the color. I really am in love with it. I'm looking at my feet right now as I'm doing this voiceover. And I'm glad it didn't come out, super, super white. It was still like a very silky kind of white. And I'm going to show you guys the finished product at the end. And I'm also going to show you guys how bright my toes are. Because, girl, it's summertime and we outside. I'm using my 80 grit file to reshape my toenails Like I said, look, y'all, I really just love how these came out. Like, I feel like my last acrylic toe video when I did my toes with white, they was cute, but I feel like these came out way better. And like I said, I'm gonna link everything down below. Lastly, I'm using my buffer to go over the surface of these nails, and I did get this buffer from my local nail supply store, but I will link some really good ones down below. So this is how they're looking so far. Y'all don't mind, you know, my skin looking a little dry right now. So this is how they looked when I was starting to clean them with alcohol. And then after I'm finished doing this and I wipe them down, I am going to go ahead with my D&D top coat. So I'm going to show you guys the finished look, and I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this YouTube video, and I hope that you guys add this on your list of services. So if you did enjoy this YouTube video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm going to see you guys in the next YouTube video.